start an internal dialogue with your inner child if you can. Simple, I'm here for you. I'm not going to abandon you. Let's
Yeah.
start simple and let's see where that takes you.
Welcome to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Main, sex and relationship coach and therapist, and I'm so honored to have you here. This podcast was created as a space for honest, nuanced, shame-free conversations about sex, intimacy, desire, relationships, and what it really means to feel at home in your body. Whether we're talking about pleasure, boundaries, communication, healing, or the messy middle of long-term relationships, this is a place where you don't have to have it all figured out in order to belong. As I enter into my 6th year of podcasting, I feel more committed than ever to helping you soften the pressure, trust your body, and build a relationship with your sexuality that feels grounded, empowered, and true to you. So take a breath, let yourself arrive, and know that wherever you're starting from is more than enough. Now, let's get into today's episode. Hi, everyone. We have on another awesome guest today, Christina Prokos, who is an intuitive life and spiritual coach and shaman whose work blends inner child healing, shadow work, and energetic insight. Born into the lineage of intuitive women and aware of her abilities from early childhood, Christina's work centers on how early environments shape emotional safety, boundaries, belonging, and adult relationship patterns. Her approach is trauma informed, grounded, and direct, and she helps clients understand behaviors like overfunctioning, caretaking, and emotional shutdown, not as flaws, but as survival strategies learned in childhood. And Christina combines practical boundaries, tools, and esoteric practices such as energy reading and soul retrieval to support embodied, lasting change. She leads a global online membership with weekly workshops in emotional safety, intuition, boundaries, and shadow work, and hosts the Soul Thrive podcast. Her work has been featured in Just Breathe magazine by Healing Hotels of the World, and her book Embrace Your Shadows explores meeting difficult emotions with honesty rather than bypassing them. I'm very excited to have her on the show today. We're going to dive into what if childhood wounds shape our adult relationships. Ooh, what an exciting conversation. I know a lot of you listening are probably intrigued by this. So let's get on with the show. All right. Welcome, Christina. Thank you so much again for coming on to the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on here.
Yeah, absolutely. When you landed into my inbox, and it was like, what if our childhood wounds shaped our adult relationships? I was like, fuck yeah, like that needs to be an episode on the podcast. I feel like I bring this into my work when I'm working with clients.
Mhm.
I love a podcast that can be a resource for so many people. And so, yeah, I'm just really excited to have you here and have this conversation on this.
Thank you.
Can you start by just telling us a little bit about you and how you even landed into doing this type of work?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I was born with extrasensory abilities from when I was really little. I could talk to deceased loved ones. I could kind of attune to different energies and peoples and experiences from when I was really, really young. It felt normal for me. And obviously, as I got older, it was kind of like, oh, you guys don't feel and see the same things that I'm seeing. Oh, okay, cool. That's a little weird. But over time, it wasn't an objective of mine. I never wanted to move into the direction of doing this type of work because there's no like actual guidance around it when you are thinking about it as a career path or as an opportunity to help other people. It was something innate in me. I always did help people no matter what, and always listen to my intuition. But when it started to become more of a possibility of me doing this and working in the vibration of talking to deceased loved ones and helping people process their grief, I kind of started off like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought to myself, like, this is just not enough. It's just not enough. I know that my abilities can be stretched. I know that I can do more. I know something innate in me. I feel like I'm a shaman. I feel like I have this ability to do more. I see myself transforming people's lives in a completely different capacity because I would, talk to other psychic mediums and I knew where their plane was.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew for me, it was like, I see that and that's beautiful. but I can stretch this further. And I wasn't afraid to go into the heavy topics around childhood traumas and childhood experiences. And so, as I developed my intuition, that intuitive muscle,
Mhm.
and kind of leaned into more trusting the process, then it just organically unfolded layer by layer throughout the years. I mean, I've been doing this now for about 15, 16 years now. So, you start to develop your intuition and you're stretching the muscle. And then eventually, what starts to happen is it all starts to click about like what you're supposed to fundamentally be doing.
Mhm.
And there's an initiation process as well that comes with that. That a lot of people don't register when you're working with intuition. There's an initiation process if you're meant to use this at the capacity that to help integrate other people's experiences. So I didn't want to do it, but here I am doing it. And even if I wanted to walk away from it, I would probably be right back into this no matter what.
Yeah. The path has been chosen and
A
it is
hundred
my turn to
percent.
follow it.
You're born this way. This is what you come in with. Not everyone has intuition, but not everyone has the capacity of being a medium or, integrating other aspects of shamanism and shadow work and all of that stuff with.
Mhm.
But I love inner child work. I'm
Mhm.
obsessed with it.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I just can imagine like little you like, oh, I have like these like witchy capabilities. Like
Hmm.
what am I to do with this? And noting from your intro too, like you came from a line of really intuitive women. And so it sounds like
Hmm.
this, like when you shared this, it was very accepting and warm, welcoming into that space.
To a degree, I mean, I don't think I had any bounds, but I also grew up Greek Orthodox. So there was a lot of challenges around kind of figuring out how to bridge my abilities and these gifts and also respecting my culture, right? And the way that I was raised. And then as I've gotten older, I've realized that there's this beautiful fusion between, certain beliefs that I do is still adapt based on being Orthodox and then also being a shaman and how they work together and they make me who I am. And that's what makes me really good at what I do. But
Mhm.
yeah, I came from a line of my grandmother, my great grandmother on my father's side.
Mhm.
They were highly intuitive and they definitely still visit me and talk to me and guide me, which is wonderful.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're diving into, childhood safety needs and how this sort of translate into our adult relationship patterns and how
Mhm.
we show up in the world today. Can you speak a little bit when you're talking about childhood safety needs or emotional safety, like can you describe that? What does that mean in your own words?
Ooh, I like that question. That's a good one.
Mhm.
So, emotional safety, I think, above everything else, is understanding your spectrum of emotions. I
Mhm.
think we're really scared of feeling our big emotions because we think like that makes us look vulnerable or very out of control. And I think that if we get better at addressing our big feelings, the easier it's going to be for us to place why we are conditioning our experiences and attracting the patterns that we have in our reality.
Mhm.
So when we're looking at safety, and I love when I'm doing the work that I'm doing one-on-one with a client or even a group setting, I try to create a visual space for people or an intention for people to create an emotional safe space for them within themselves.
Mhm.
So that when you're visiting aspects of yourself, whether you're holding a photo of yourself when you were really little, or whether
Mhm.
you're acknowledging a trauma that you went through in your childhood, it's really important to create the safety internally so that your inner child and you are bridging that gap and communicating with one another so that you have the opportunity to start to heal and move into a space of empowerment and relief.
Mhm.
What that really looks like is understanding what in your whole entire childhood has caused the unsafety to begin with. Because
Mhm.
when we're looking at our core foundation, that's value, worth, money, just your views on life in general, we can look at it as like unsafety. Oh no, everything in life is a threat, or safety. You know what? No matter what shows up, I have the capacity of working through this because I'm grounded and I'm safe and regulated within who I am. But people don't want to acknowledge their big feelings because it's associated with so much pain.
Mhm.
And what we tend to do is we deflect or avoid or project instead of actually looking at it for what it is. So I always tell my clients to examine, maybe even create like a timeline of like a pattern that they have in their experiences that they keep repeating over and over and over again
Mhm.
and registering and asking yourself like how safe does this make you feel, because we have a comfort with
Mhm.
our patterns. We do feel a false sense of safety whether we like this or not. And I want people to acknowledge, like, how is this serving you? Because there is an aspect of us that when we feel comfortable or we have that false sense of safety, it is serving us to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really want to find alignment and you want to find change and you want to find growth and evolve as yourself, you have to examine that thing that you feel very comfortable with and ask yourself, like, maybe it is creating a lot of unsafety.
Mm-hmm.
What am I scared of here? What do I need to face? What's the pain that's here?
Mm-hmm.
Most of us don't remember most of our childhood experiences. I know that I didn't either. And I run into the conversation quite frequently where, like, I don't remember my childhood. I don't remember what happened to me. And I'm like, that's because there most likely was a lot of trauma, but your nervous system will remember it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's an emotional impact on your nervous system. So sometimes people don't understand why they have big reactions in their environment or triggers. And they were like, but I was totally fine. And then all of a sudden, this thing impacted me. And I don't know why. I'm like, because that's most likely linked to an unsafe wound or a core belief in your childhood. And we need to examine that experience for you to integrate the safety that you need so that you have more context around what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is a process no matter what, and it is layered, just like, you're peeling the layers of the onion so that you can get to the core understanding of what that would look like for you. But
Mm-hmm.
if I was to give anyone a little tool, what I would say is create a space in your environment, in your home, where you can go and sit and be with yourself consistently. So you start training yourself to be like, that's my safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And then start that internal dialogue within yourself and your inner child. And even just the words of, I'm here with you, I'm not going to abandon you,
Mm-hmm.
I want to communicate with you, is a great process so that you have the opportunity to start to regulate that conversation and bridge the safety that you need, so that you have the opportunity to align with better outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as easy. It's not quick fix. We're not looking for quick fixes. It is a lifestyle change at the end of the day. But if we do that, we start that, you're going to start to see things in your environment change drastically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what I'm hearing from that is like really the step one is to get curious. Like you said, notice how these patterns are showing up and how you're specifically responding in the patterns. And so you talk a lot like this could be the overfunctioning person, this could be the
Mhm.
caretaker, the people pleaser, the person that
Mhm.
shuts down. Like we all have these, I call them like our internal bodyguards. Like they show
Mhm.
up, they're like, aha, it's my time. Like I got to keep this individual safe. We're on, like we're the star of the show. And yeah, leaning into that and getting curious. And I love that you named that part of the work, and I think the most important part of doing this work is helping people, our clients, right, see that we have all the tools that we need inside. We don't need to necessarily outsource things for our safety. Like we can hold ourselves in these big emotions, and right, it might take a coach, a practitioner to show us how to do that, but in
Mhm.
reality it's like that's what we're doing, is like showing you that you are actually the gift, like you have everything you
Yeah.
already need.
I love what you just said in regards to the protector personalities, because those protector personalities would show up also because most likely in your childhood, you were parentifying your own parents and you didn't necessarily know how to do that. They didn't give you the emotional nurturement that you needed or the regulation that you needed. So you would develop these types of defense mechanisms and personalities. But also, those dynamics, those are family dynamics as well, where basically you're assigned a role from a very young age in your family dynamic. And that kind of becomes a label that you operate with.
Mhm.
So, for instance, like the scapegoat, we all know that one. We're always like, oh, we feel like the black sheep of the family. And it's like, but that was an assigned role so
Mhm.
that they could project or avoid what accountabilities needed to be taken in the environment. And
Mhm.
so, when we've got these protective personalities, totally normal for those to come in to create a false sense of safety and protection. But then also we have to examine the role that we identify with and we think is our personality
Mhm.
and how we're going outside of ourselves, creating that same dynamic. So as a fixer, let's say you're going and you're fixing everyone's problems all the time, and then you're wondering why nobody's showing up and supporting you. It's like because that's the role that they assigned, regardless whether you like it or not. So you have to examine what role was given to you at a very young age.
Yeah. And when somebody has the realization, like, okay, I see that this is my pattern, like as you already named, like it's not a one and done. Like this, it can
Mhm.
sometimes takes months, years, like a long time to rewire these things. I like to think of it, it's like, I'm 37 and like it took me 37 years of like living in this pattern. It's probably gonna maybe take me, hopefully not another 37 years, but some time to unwire this shit.
Mhm.
So yeah, can you speak a little bit around like why are these things like caretaking or overfunctioning? Hello, I'm present, the overfunctioning one.
Mhm.
Why do these feel so hard to stop for people?
Because it gives you a false sense of validation and
Mm,
a false sense of belonging at the end of the day. So again, it goes back to giving you that false sense of safety,
mhm,
right? We are programmed to be part of a community no matter what. We need community, we need belonging, we need people.
mhm,
And even if we think, well, I'm going to do this all on my own and I'm going to work on whatever I need to work on my own, you need people. No matter what, we need connection.
yeah.
And so, unfortunately, what happens is we start to develop this personality and it got validation. As long as you were performing as the fixer or the people pleaser or the person that was, mediating the conflicts, whatever that looks like, as long as you're performing your role, then you were getting a sense of that false sense of belonging and validation. So it really feels difficult for someone to change the behavior sometimes because they've now designed their whole entire life around that.
Mhm,
So you'd have to have an ego death to a degree to kind of be like, oh my God, in order for me to change that, I may have to reevaluate all my relationships around me and kind of figure out what works for me and what doesn't work for me and who's going to abandon me, who's going to lead me through that process. And that's really painful because we don't necessarily know what feels safe on the other side of that. And
mhm,
that's why people hold on to these behaviors or go into a state of resistance. And it's like sometimes when I'm working one on one with someone and they're showing up and I could feel the resistance, I'm like, okay, we're going to have to go really gentle and small and incrementally so that you could understand what's really going on here so that you have the opportunity to really reframe and understand that that actually isn't what's supposed to happen in connection and belonging and family. That's dysfunction.
mhm, mhm,
And you're used to operating with your dysfunction. And that then creates a false sense of a self. And then we're looking at how do I change? How do I get better? And then you're not changing for you. You're changing so that you want everybody around you to change for you so
mhm,
that you could still belong.
mhm.
It's a healer's path is not an easy one because you have to be accountable of yourself and then you have to hold others accountable as well. And it is a path of truth and honesty. And a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that at the end of the day. So it's very hard to be like, but I'm telling you, on the other side of that, there's so much more connection and so
Yeah.
better community and better people. And, you could feel joy. And they're like holding on to what they know. It's so
Mhm.
difficult. And I get that. I understand why.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad that you shared like there is like the light at the end of the tunnel, because I think
Mhm.
oftentimes when we hear like inner child work or shadow work, right? It's like you have to get through these big hoops, these big emotions, like face your biggest fears. Like a lot of people are like, I don't want to fucking do that.
A
Like
hundred
I
percent.
I like
Yeah.
why would I do that? But it's like, yeah, there is more to it. Like there is purpose to it. We're not just making you go through this like sense of like meeting all of your traumas and all of your dysfunction, right? For no reason. There
Hmm.
is rhyme to the reason.
I also find it interesting because there's such a huge self-preservation that happens that and the guilt and the obligation that's also put on from your childhood experiences that if you were the one who was held responsible for mom and dad for X amount of time, then it's not going to feel good to be like, let's examine dad's behaviors and how that impacted you. Let's examine mom's behaviors and how that impacted you. Do you know the resistance that I get sometimes with that? Because they're like, my parents, they did the best that they could and like they did. And I'm like, totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a pattern in your life that's not functioning correctly and you're suffering. So we have to examine that. No one's saying mom and dad are bad. What
Right.
we're saying at the end of the day is we need to examine your adaptations and your belief systems that are creating the cyclical patterns in your life and that are creating the pain and the suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously on the other spectrum of that too is yes, maybe mom and dad did do a lot of damage. And there is a lot of bad that you need to look at here. And you need to, because I can't deny a person who went through sexual abuse with their father and
Right.
turn around and be like, well, we have to find forgiveness for this. That doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's spectrums to how we approach our emotions and our belief systems and our patterns and our experiences. And that's the purpose of shadow work. Shadow work is the opportunity to examine all those things, give it more context, and parent the inner child in accordance so that they can evolve and grow and see things from a place of truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you did just speak a little bit on boundaries, for instance, like so I would love to ask like why do boundaries feel so activating for so many people?
Reactive, you mean? I mean, come on, let's call it for what it actually is. Usually, people who, let's say you're a people pleaser for X amount of time, and then all of a sudden you decided to put up a boundary, it's going to feel very uncomfortable for somebody who's used to using you. That's gonna create a reaction within that, and you're gonna think, if especially if you're operating with like I'm a bad person, because people pleasing is also associated with guilt so much, right? You feel
Mhm.
guilty for prioritizing yourself and putting up a boundary. So of
Mhm.
course someone's gonna look at that and be like, well, you're different, you've changed, what's wrong with you, what are you
Mhm.
doing? And you're
Mhm.
like, I'm just trying to prioritize my well-being. And they're like, well, this isn't prioritizing your well-being, this is bad, right? And you have to really have the courage and the strength to kind of examine here what the dynamic of that role between that relationship and you and that person have. Like, what is it that they also are not, that they're used to getting away with because you've given them the permission to? It also is a very, people mistaken boundaries as a line that they put between you and someone else. And it really isn't a line. Like, we're not like drawing a line in the sand and then that's what that is.
Mhm.
Really, it is about personal boundaries and not violating your own boundaries. So if I have a boundary that says I'm not going to self-abandon, then I have to honor the fact that I've put that boundary up.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean we can't necessarily be mutable depending on what the circumstance or the situation is.
Mhm.
I do believe that boundaries are teaching others how to understand us at the
Mhm.
end of the day. I'm not putting a boundary up just so that you can treat me better.
Yeah.
Because my question becomes, why am I around the person that's treating me unfair and unkind or right? I'm always modifying or trying to get them to understand something that they're never going to grasp because they don't want to. There isn't enough care on the other end to consider me at the
Mhm.
end of the day.
Mhm.
So boundaries really is teaching you about what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And at the end of the day, you can execute the boundary with someone and say, hey, listen, I don't like this type of behavior pattern. It's really triggering for me because of my childhood experiences. And if that person doesn't respect what you're saying or understand you because they're used to getting something from you, whatever that may look like,
Mhm.
then you know that that relationship doesn't belong in your life because it's too linked to your trauma to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I'm violating my own boundary again, if I said, I'm not going to self abandon, and then someone's like, hey, do you mind coming and helping me move this weekend? Even though I know that you're really busy and you got 101 different things going on, and I'm fully aware of that. And you're like, I don't want to come off as a bad guy, but because your people pleasing tendencies are going to show up, you'll be
Mhm.
like, cool, I'll be there. Oh,
Mhm.
guess what you just did? You self-abandoned, you
Mhm.
violated your own boundary. Now you're resenting that person and you're getting angry at that person for the thing that you said you weren't going to do. And that's
Mhm.
very common. We start to develop that anger and resentment because of our own violating our own boundaries
Mhm.
consistently.
Right. It's easier to blame somebody else than ourselves. And I really like how you just like worded that in terms of boundaries because I think you're right. A lot of people do say like it's that line in the sand, like you can't talk to me like that or you can't do this to me, but we don't have control over what other people do. We only have control over ourselves. So yeah, the way that you worded that, thank you for that. And I think that is super helpful of knowing I like the self-abandon too, that like that really that landed for me as well. And to be able to see and notice how I'm showing up when I'm receiving boundaries from other people and learning
Mhm.
also to respect that of them. Because I think there's the other side. It's like we can be the ones setting the boundaries, but we're also the ones that are being boundaries are being set with or
Oh,
for in
yeah.
our own stuff. And so yeah, I think it's like getting to a place where we can accept and just and see people who they truly are. I like the sign in your background, right? Like just be yourself. Like if we could
Mhm.
all just do that, the world would
Mhm.
run so much easier.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wouldn't it be nice if all of us could just be like, this is who I am. This is who you are. Oh my God, I love that. Oh my God, I love that too. Let's work on that. This feels really nice in our relationship instead of like, what do you mean? This doesn't serve me. I
Mhm.
need you to do this. And there's a hardness that comes with that. And then there's never any conflict resolved with that at the end of the day.
Mhm. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. Any fine, like any simple boundary tools that you often give to clients, like for someone that's getting started in this or wants to be better with boundary setting?
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, people have to assess what their needs and what their wants actually are. And sometimes they can get that a little confused. So I always
Mhm.
say, like, pen to paper, sit down and kind of reevaluate what your actual needs are. How are you meeting your own personal needs, first of all?
Mhm.
Let's assess there. The
Mhm.
second aspect is wants, desires. Okay, so you want and you desire certain things in your life and in your experiences. What are you not willing to compromise on? If you're not willing to compromise on these things, then those things become your boundaries. It's pretty simple. It's not that
Mhm.
difficult. And the
Mhm.
same thing with your needs. If you're not willing to compromise on these needs, those are your boundaries.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then you have a better way of looking at that and executing that in your reality. But we're so used to going towards rejection.
Yeah.
Like, do you see me? Do you value me? Do you love me? Do you appreciate me because of our own low self-esteem from our childhood experiences? That executing a boundary really can dysregulate your nervous system a lot. So I always say start small,
Mhm.
start with small things like food. Like,
Mhm.
okay, what do you like and what don't you like? And then like start practicing that. Like if someone says to you, let's go out for Indian food, and you're just like, oh, you're constantly compromising and you don't like Indian food, then maybe it's an opportunity for you to be like, hey, you know what? I don't like Indian food. I prefer Chinese food.
Mhm.
And like, they're like, oh, but you, we always go for Indian food. You're like, that's okay. I've decided to change that. And I'm choosing to go into this direction. You can go and grab whatever. That doesn't mean anything about our relationship. It just means I'm pivoting over here a little bit.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, defining that for yourself again is just the opportunity of understanding yourself and helping others understand you. So if
Mhm.
you just kind of look at it like that, like, what do I want someone to understand about me?
Yeah.
But do I understand that about me?
Yeah. Yeah.
That small little reframe goes a long way. And that executes healthier boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I often hear from people that listen, like they want the framework, they want the steps, like how do I, you are having a conversation on this, but like how do I do the things, right? And
Mhm,
part of that
mhm,
is like, yeah, you can listen to these free podcasts all you want and hire a coach, hire a therapist, like somebody that can guide you through these things in a deeper way.
mhm,
And yeah, in your work, like you do many things. Like you bring in a lot of different modalities. I would love to speak a little bit more to like the energy readings and you mentioned
mhm,
like soul retrieval that you do. How
mhm.
how does this show up in the work that you're doing with clients?
So usually soul retrieval is with someone that I feel that has a really huge fragmented wound that no matter what they do, whether they do therapy, whether they're doing talk therapy, whether they're seeing a grief specialist, whatever their other process may be, there's just no way that they're going to be able to integrate that because it's so deep of a wound
Mhm.
that literally I have to do a shamanic process where I go in. If people understand how a shaman works, I'm more of a modern shaman. I don't do like microdosing. I don't do ayahuasca. I don't do any of those things because I believe those are crutches. Usually if you have or there's a calling for that, that's different. It means that you're meant to do shamanic work at a capacity of certain things.
Mhm.
But for me, it's like looking at the wound and registering that this person's soul energy is so fragmented from them. I literally have to retrieve, go in, visualize, relive the experience of their trauma for them
Mhm.
and retrieve that part, bring it back to them.
Mhm.
And every single one of my clients, after they've experienced a soul retrieval, and not all of them will, because I don't do it for everybody. And I do it for the people that really need it and are really committed to this process. And I have a good understanding of where they're at and what we're working on together. They're always like, oh my God, it's like a piece of me came home.
Mhm.
I can't explain it. Like I knew something was missing. I felt a sense of emptiness, a sense of loneliness for such a long time. What did you bring back? And then I'll explain to them. I was walking down here. I saw this. I had to go into this area. As an example, I did a soul retrieval for a client of mine who had extreme abuse and addiction in her childhood from her father and her mother. And I just saw a hallway that I was walking down, and at the end of the room was, a bed. It was a bedroom and like a little girl. And I just walked in and she was holding a box. And in the box, she had closed a part of her heart.
Mm.
She was holding on for dear life and she like gave it to her guide and her guide hit it. Like it was like a self-preservation,
Mhm.
that needed to take place around that experience in order for her to survive her childhood.
Mhm.
So I walked in and I'm cloaked. There's a whole process that comes with
Yes.
this too, right? It's an energetic process. We won't get into when I travel to the land of the dead. That's a whole other conversation. Right. But so here I am walking down this hallway. I can feel the wallpaper. I can feel the carpet underneath my feet. I have a sense, I'm fully immersed in the sensory experience of that. I feel the emotions, the impact. And then I go and I retrieve that part and I take the little girl and I bring her home into the safe space and I give back that part that belongs to the soul. And immediately the client's like, what was that? And then I get out of it, I explain, and they're like, that was my childhood home. Like, how did you? And I describe it to them. It's not
Mhm.
always to the T, but then there's always like, how do I explain energy? It's almost like pieces of the puzzle of all those experiences. And sometimes when I'm doing soul retrieval, I'm not just retrieving that aspect of that childhood's experience. I'm going as far back as the father's experience, where
Mhm.
that initial fragment was, and
Mhm.
retrieving that back into them. So then that changes the energy and the
Mhm.
karma and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
So it's a really intense process.
Yeah.
I use it for my clients who have been with me for a very long time. I wouldn't do it as somebody who just decided to show up out
Right.
of nowhere and they're like, hey,
I'm signing
it's
up for my
like,
soul retrieval call.
right? That doesn't mean we don't do the integrative process through shadow work.
Mhm.
Shadow work, we're going revisiting the inner child consistently, and then we're retrieving aspects of the inner child so that we're also bringing a sense of wholeness.
Mhm.
Two
Yeah.
different experiences,
Yes.
one a little bit more extreme than the other.
Yeah. Fascinating. Wow, what a gift that you have to be able to do this
Thank
work with
you.
people.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah. And just in the way that you share about it and speak about it, you can tell like you feel so confident and you know what you're doing. Like you have expertise and experience in
Yeah,
this.
I've been doing it for a very long time. I've had a lot of experience, good and bad.
Yes. Yeah. So as we're nearing the end here, my gosh, time flies.
Hmm.
Um, why, yeah, we want to talk about like insight versus embodied change. So as you just mentioned, like there's processes that tons of processes that people can go through. They can do talk therapy, they can do somatic work, they can do shamanic work. Was that correct?
Shamanic. Yeah.
Shamanic work. And yeah, like when people are going through their healing process, like how do we let it be more of that experimental and not necessarily that performative? I can see that happening in a
Mhm.
lot of spaces. Like I feel
Mhm.
like I get into this work and I need to show up a certain way, or I need to be good
Mhm.
at this, or I need to heal this in X amount of time. How do we help people just you mentioned earlier, like trust the process, like trust that your path is your path.
People come to see me. I mean, I'll simplify that answer, but it's a good one, and I'm glad that you're asking this. But people come to see me when they've done all of the other stuff and it hasn't worked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like at the same time, but it worked. It mattered
Yes.
because now we're here.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you felt like, oh no, I did therapy for X amount of years and I've been going through this process and I've been having these experiences and it just doesn't feel like it's helping. It's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
it still is. It still has value. It still has a meaning towards helping you get to where you need to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And I really would hope that people stopped approaching healing as like the quick fix that they constantly need and more of like a lifestyle change, no different than eating better, no different than exercising, no different than just wanting to have self-awareness. I mean, I think if you could just do even just that, just be self-aware of how you're impacting people, the experiences, the way you're communicating, the goods and the bads of that, and also register you're human, you're going to make mistakes. It's totally normal. I think that if we give ourselves like we let go of the pressure of where we think we need to be and the perfectionism that's tied to how we think we're supposed to evolve or what we think we're supposed to create or what we think we're supposed to have out of that. I also think too objectively people when we're working with our egos
Mm-hmm.
and our monkey mind,
Mm-hmm.
it always goes into achievements and goal setting and that feels fast.
Mm-hmm.
When you're approaching it from safety and regulation, that's a whole other conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You register, it's a forever process.
Yeah.
And even it means even when you cross over, you're still evolving in that
Yes.
process.
The work is never done.
No, I mean, as a
Yeah.
medium too, you know how many people I talk to have crossed over that come to me to talk to me about their family dynamics and what they want that person to heal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're like, this is the karma that we need to balance here.
Mm.
This isn't just about your deceased loved one is next to you, supporting you, and like they didn't leave you. That's a process. But now we're also looking at it as like they're coming to me and telling me about what damage they did, the karma that they inflicted,
Mm.
and also how important it is for you to focus on changing this behavior pattern within yourself so that it doesn't repeat to the next generation.
Mm. Whew.
Heavy work,
Yeah.
big responsibility, but at the same time, so much fun. Could be so much fun.
Could be so much fun. Yes.
There could be a lot of fun with this too. I think there's a lot of joy on the other end of this as well. There's, like I said, I love doing this.
Hmm.
This to me is like, oh my God, you want to talk about your pattern? Bring it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I want to know more about it. And that helps people move into alignment.
Hmm. Yeah. And meeting it with like, again, like that care, that compassion, that curiosity, not shaming them, not blaming
No.
them. We do enough of that to ourselves. And so we don't need somebody else coming along to do that again for us.
I will say one thing though. I am a little bit direct through the process as well. And sometimes people are not active listeners
Mm-hmm.
and they approach things based on their filter. So
Hmm.
sometimes a little bit of a, hey, cut that out, or let's move here, let's do that,
Hmm.
kind of shakes things up a little bit so
Yeah.
that people align with better outcomes.
Yes. I call it the boop. Like boop,
Yeah.
I'm gonna boop
Yes,
my
a
nose.
little bit of that.
Absolutely. So, in all of our conversation today, what would you say is one thing that you want to invite listeners to explore differently after this conversation?
I think that I would love for individuals to start the process of understanding their emotions and like just name them. Like today I'm sad, today I'm happy, tomorrow today I'm not feeling like well. I just want that dialogue. Like let's get better at acknowledging what our emotions are trying to communicate to us.
Mhm.
Start an internal dialogue with your inner child if you can. Simple, I'm here for you. I'm not going to abandon you. Let's
Yeah.
start simple and let's see where that takes you.
Hmm. Yes. It's funny that you say that. Just while we were recording this, get a text from my husband. How are you feeling today? Like,
Oh,
what a
I love
beautiful question for me to reflect on. Most people respond to that and they're like, good, my day's good or my day's shit. But I
that.
think, yeah, in this conversation, I'm like, gonna take a little moment. How do I actually feel today in my
Exactly.
body? And
Yes.
yeah, we're menstrual day too. So I know that's why he's asking, like, what am I coming home to today, babe?
Oh, yes, totally. That too.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Christina, again, for coming onto the
Thank
show and for
you.
talking about this. I'm sure that we're going to have a lot of intrigued listeners. And so, if somebody is wanting to connect with you, to
Mhm.
find out more about your work, how's the best way for them to find you?
So I'm on Instagram, Christina_life_spiritual or www.christinaprokos.com. And I do have my book, Embrace Your Shadows, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and Indigo, if anybody wants to purchase that as well.
Wonderful. We didn't even get to touch on that.
I know I
Tell us
have
a
a
little
whole
bit.
book on inner child healing and shadow work.
Amazing.
Mhm.
Okay. We
So it's a good
will
way for people
link
to start as
that.
well.
For sure. Yeah, we'll definitely link that and embrace your shadows. Yeah, I did record that in the bio, so I'm so sorry that I missed that in
That's
our
okay, no
episode.
worries.
But we'll get all of the things linked, your podcast as well, the Soul Thrive podcast. Many ways of connecting with you. And do you only do in-person work or do you work with people virtually as well?
It's only virtual.
Oh, only virtual. Okay.
Yeah, I have clients all over the world.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again
Thank
for
you so
for coming
much. I
on and
appreciate
all
this.
the
Great
work that you do.
conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today on the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, I invite you to pause and notice what stood out, what stirred something in you, or what you might want to explore a little bit more gently this week. If you'd like to support the podcast as it continues into its 6th year, subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing this episode with someone that you trust and love truly, truly means the world to me. It helps these conversations reach more people who need permission to feel less alone in their sexuality and their relationships. You can find more resources, programs, and ways to work with me in the show notes, and I'd love to connect with you beyond the podcast. Until next time, keep honoring your body, your boundaries, and your becoming. I'll see you soon.